Well, hello, third graders. Hey, we're starting a new unit, Unit 11. We're going to be learning about perimeter and area. And this is cool stuff. And again, this is stuff you will use throughout your lifetime. It starts on page 623 in your math workbooks. 623 and 24 are a couple of pages just to familiarize you with what you already should know. So go ahead and do those 2 pages, 623 and 624. See how well you do. As we move through this unit, then we'll make sure that you understand these concepts. Vocabulary. In math, you have to know the vocabulary. You have to know what these words mean, because that's the answer to how you are going to solve a problem. Now, there are 8 vocabulary words in Unit 11 here that we're going to go over. And the first one is area. We're going to learn how to calculate area, but area basically is the number of square units it takes to cover the surface. Now, this would have 3 units on this side, 2 units on that side. 3 times 2 equals 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 square units because these are square. And that's how you would state that. And that's what area is. How many square units it takes to cover the surface of an object. The next word in this vocabulary list is centimeter. We all know when we hear centimeter that it's not part of the standard measurement, that it's metric. And a centimeter is part of the metric measuring system. And you see that, I don't know if I can get that close enough, you can see it. Those measurements typically exist on the ruler, and it's used to measure things in the metric system. So it's a unit of measure. What is next here? Inverse operation. You'll hear inverse operation. And inverse just means the opposite. You invert something, you do the opposite. So, the inverse operation for addition would be subtraction. And inversely, the inverse operation for subtraction is addition, addition is subtraction. Just the opposite. Same thing with multiplication and division. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, and the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So you'll hear that referred to as we work through this unit. Length. Length is just the measure between 2 points. What's the length of this pen? What's the length of this ruler? Well, the length of this ruler is 1 foot, or 30 centimeters. Anyhow, that's what length is. By the way, when you're looking at figuring the area or the perimeter of an object, length is one of the measurements. We got length, and we have height. And that would be this measurement. So length, it's a measure from this point to this point. What is the length of that object? Perimeter. Perimeter is just the distance. If we start right here, and we go here, down the side, across the bottom, and back up to here, that distance around the outside is the perimeter. So when we start calculating perimeters, it's just the sum of the lengths of those four sides. Then they throw in rectangle. Rectangle is a geometric term that defines a shape, and that shape is such that you have four sides, two sets of the sides are parallel. In other words, they go in the same direction, but they are two different measurements. This measurement here is longer than this measurement here. So they do not have equal measurements. If they had equal measurements, if all sides were equal, then that's a square. So a rectangle, two of the sides have a different measurement than the other two sides. All the sides are parallel with their pair. Square unit. Now, a square unit, remember we talked about in area, a square unit is a unit of measure, and that unit of measure square, that means it's the same on all sides, and it's typically 1. This would be 1 square unit. Now, unit can be defined in inches, centimeters, different ways, but for reference, for example, in this rectangle, if we were trying to figure out how many of these squares, you see the square, there's a square, there's a square. These are square units that would cover the surface of that. It looks like we've got 4 square units on that side and 2 on this side. And in order to find area, it's just length times width. 4 times 2 is 8. And there are 8 square units within that shape. Unit square. Now, unit square, think about this. I don't want to confuse you. That illustration of 4 units on one side, 2 on the other. 4 times 2 is 8. And when we label this, we will label it as 8 units squared, or 8 square units. And I keep saying units because I haven't defined what that unit is. If it's inches, then it would be 8 square inches. If it was centimeters, it'd be 8 square centimeters. If it was miles, it would be 8 square miles. So a unit square is whatever the unit of measurement is, and that's defined in the problem, squared. And you can either write it by putting it this way, inches with the 2, indicating that it's squared, or you can write it as square inches. So that's your work for today. Your work for today is to look at those vocabulary words. Become familiar with them, because the more familiar you are, the more you know what they are, the easier the problems will become. You can work through the exercise on 623, 624A and 624B. And then if you want to look ahead into lesson 11.1 to see what we'll be getting into next, that would be a good idea. Meanwhile, that's it for today, third graders. Stay hard at it, keep learning, and we'll be back tomorrow with another lesson. Y'all stay safe, have a good day.